Thanks for joining me again today. We are in the Pocono Mountains and we are on a mountain stream that runs through a lot of the area here in Stroud Township. This is called Flagler Run. This runs down from the heart of the Pocono Mountains, the true heart of the Pocono Mountains, which is still fairly wild, down through Stroud Township, through Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and spills into some of the larger streams that eventually flow into the Delaware River. I painted a scene not too far from here, which I can't access right now, that I based my one of my Keystone murals on for the Keystone 250 celebration for Monroe County, which is where we're located. It's a little bit of a different scene. It's early in the morning, interesting light. It's just a beautiful spot. There's a lot of standing water due to heavy rains recently, so I'm getting bombarded with mosquitoes, which is not real enjoyable. But other than that, beautiful spot. We're going to be painting with a little painting today, a little sketch. We have our 5x7 canvas panel. We have an array of brushes. We have pretty standard palette here. We have titanium blue, cadmium, I'm sorry, that's transparent orange oxide, cadmium yellow, yellow ochre. We have burnt sienna, cadmium red, and we added dioxazine purple because I do see a lot of opportunities to bring dark purples, dark violets into the scene. Titanium white and a little bit of Mars black. And we're just going to continue. It's pretty humid right now, but we'll continue to spray our palette to keep it moist. Hopefully we'll stay organized enough where we could use the same palette again for a painting later, if not today, tomorrow morning maybe, if we keep it wet. And I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'll show you how I'm gonna target and as far as what I'm gonna include in this scene. And I think this is, unless I can't capture it quickly enough, the scene is really going to be all about the depth created by this little window with mist coming through. I may miss out on the opportunity to really nail that, but I want to keep that a little off center. I'll probably focus in on this scene right here, roughly. That's how I'll frame it. Paint it fairly literally, but we'll edit some things out and modify some things. Like for example, that fallen tree root there is, I'm not sure what I think about that yet, but I might minimize that a little bit. I might put a little exaggerated emphasis on this big boulder. And I may, depending upon how this emerges, this little shape here in the background, and depending upon how the color and the values change as light changes here, I may modify that a little bit too, just to exaggerate the depth. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll probably tilt my camera down just a little bit so it's easier to see what I'm doing. You can still see the scene. I'm gonna go ahead. Today, I am still gonna use my little, I've been toning my canvases with this transparent orange oxide, and I'm gonna do that today as well. This is very well could turn into a very green dominant palette for this painting, as a lot of paintings do here in the summer months in northeastern Pennsylvania and the mid-Atlantic in general. So having these little bits of transparent orange I find I'm enjoying the vibration that it creates, the color vibration that it creates coming up against as it kind of filters through in some of the thinner passages of paint. So got a little bit of burnt sienna maybe toward the corners here. And I'm going to spray my canvas, push that paint around a little bit. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get a little nub of paper towel or shop cloth. I'm going to fold it a couple times over so I get a little nub like this. And I'm going to go ahead and just make some marks indicating some of the lighter spots, most of which will be where the sky breaks through and where light is reflecting off of the stream. There's a spot in the background now where the light is really hitting the grass. You can hardly see it, but it's there. And then we're gonna have a light spot here and a couple here. So just wiping away the paint, revealing more of the canvas. That's a transparent, one of the benefits of painting using a transparent or semi-transparent paint like we are with this transparent orange oxide is that you could easily get these effects just by letting the canvas show through. Okay. Now I'm going to use a smaller brush, so just to work in some marks with indicating some of the darker values. And this is where I'm going to use my dioxazine purple and maybe a little bit of the burnt sienna and a little bit of the Mars black. There we go. So we have a really dark value here along the shoreline, which is in shadow. And it goes across. And the shape will grow as it gets closer to us. We'll kind of suggest linear perspective there. We have any of these walls of landmass that are facing us, that are vertical, are going to be in their own shadow, so they're going to be pretty dark. So we're going to quickly suggest those, and this will serve as a guide for us as we make our way with some of the passages of paint as we make our way through. Okay, and we have this big fallen tree here, and this big boulder here. Oof, I feel myself getting bit up pretty bad. All right, we're gonna desaturate this a little bit, add a little bit of Mars black, a little bit of yellow ochre, and some white. Now we have like a greenish gray, and we're going to use this quite a bit on this side. We're just going to mass in this shape. We need a lot more of that. So a little bit of the purple, a little bit of black, a little bit of white, a fair amount of yellow ochre. Just the big shape. So if we squint our eyes and we look at this mass right here, That's where that's what we're focusing on. And we have similar value here. We'll go ahead and just lay that in. Maybe we'll gray it out a little bit more, a little less purple, a little bit more gray, yeah, blue, yellow ochre. There we go. Let me get a little bit of a bigger brush for this. Here we go. Ochre, a little purple, a little black, a little white, a little ochre, blue. It's a little bit brighter because this side is receiving some of the light coming across, but we still need those areas of dark. Let's put some of that in there. Okay. So one more there. There we go. Alrighty. Now we're going to mix up slightly more saturated green. I'm going to come over the top of this with a much brighter green. So we're going to use a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of cad yellow, a little bit of blue, and we're going to go ahead and just sweep across and get indications of these bigger shapes, masses of green. And they're everywhere, but for the most part, they dominate the mid-ground and the foreground here. All right. And if we squint our eyes and we look at the darker areas in this stream, it's kind of like a brownish green. So we're going to go ahead and get in that same pile a little bit of our burnt sienna, a little bit of black, a little bit of blue, and yellow ochre. A little bit more burnt sienna. Let's go with a little bit more yellow ochre, a little bit more burnt sienna, and a touch more black. There we go. And I think this is probably the average. If I look at the average of the darkest areas of the water surface, that's pretty close to it, maybe a little bit darker than what we actually see. But I'm going to go ahead and lay this in. Just to get the canvas covered. It'll be a little haphazard. So I think all these brush strokes and all these marks will just lend to the illusion of detail. We don't want to spend hours and hours rendering like an illustration. We want to have painterly quality to it. So go ahead and get that in, and maybe some of this color light reflects color, so it might be bouncing around everywhere, who knows. All right. You can kind of see it emerging a little bit. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'll get a little bit of this in the background, just dry brushing. Not a lot of paint on that brush anymore. Okay. We're gonna lighten this up just a little bit and we're gonna cool it off as well, that same pool of color. A little bit of blue, a little bit of purple, a little bit of white. And we're gonna use this jeweled color here. It's like a deep jewel color, just to create some color contrast. It's a similar value. It might even be a little darker, even though we added white to that brownish green color that we added earlier. But I want this in here because when we start to try and indicate the reflections in the water, we want some of the warmer reflections to sing. And the way that you do that is by having it next to a cooler color reflection. All right. So a couple things we're going to do. We're going to restate some of those darkest values. So I'm going to go into pure black. And we're not going to overdo this. I'm just going to make sure, at least in the foreground, where these darkest shadows are, and maybe in the midground here, we don't lose sight of what we have going on there and the design of this painting. Use some of this on the trees. You can see what's going on here. We have a decent structure. We'll come over the top with some of the trees in the midground and foreground, and definitely with some of the stones. There's a couple of stones that I think are going to be more important than others. There's one right here. Definitely not going to paint all these stones. There's a lot of stones in this scene, but right here, there's one that'll help lead the eye up into the painting, I think. Don't want to be a slave to nature. So you want to think about what you're including, what you're excluding, and how you're arranging things. Sometimes nature does a good job of that. Sometimes it needs a little help. Sometimes we overthink it. All right. So you're just better off painting what you see. But okay, I'll go ahead and get a little bluish black here and get all right. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use the same brush. I'm gonna dip into my greenish bluish gray here. I'm gonna lighten that up quite a bit and blue it out a little bit. And get a little of that cooler gray. Down here, just to denote that. Start giving myself the opportunity to play with the atmospheric perspective here. That's where when you have the things recede off into the distance, they get a little bluer. if you're interested in learning more, I have a lot more. This is a demo. I'm not doing a lot of talking or explaining. I do run some workshops. You can check out my website, and there's a whole page dedicated to the workshops that I offer. In addition to that, if you look in the comments or for this video or a description of this video, there's a link to my registration page on my website, and you could register for my weekly emails. I'm not the most disciplined with that, so sometimes they're weekly, sometimes they're bi-weekly. Sometimes you might go a month or two without hearing from me, so I won't spam you. But trying to build up the educational content to help my workshop attendees have additional resources. So check that out if you want. Certainly would love to see you at some of my workshops if this is the sort of thing you're interested in. All right, I'm going to come across with just a little bit of the same color and get it into some of those stones. Now I'm going to start working my greens. So let's see. A nice little angled brush. Almost looks like a dagger brush right now, but it's an angle brush. And we get some more intense greens mixed up. So a little cad yellow, a little blue. We'll modulate back and forth, warm it up, cool it off, and so forth. But I'll get this in there a little bit cooler for now. My dioxazine purple in there. There you go. Just need a little bit more of a saturated, cooler green. Will be lighter with the cooler greens on this side, where the light's hitting. Will be much more heavy-handed with the cooler greens on the left side of the stream, where the shadows are a little stronger. It's a matter of taste. Some people won't like those little bits of orange showing through. I like playing with that a little bit, and throughout the painting assessing where it's helpful and where it's not. A little purple into my green here. And I'm going to use this. I'm going to get this. There we go. Get some strokes indicating this hill. We are in a pretty deep gorge here. All right, now we will come through with a little bit more of an ochreish green, a little blue, a little yellow ochre. I'll go ahead and get that. All right, get more saturated version of that. A little bit of black, a lot more yellow ochre. I'm just going to make sure that we manage the values as best we can here. This needs to be a little bit darker in the lower part of this section of trees. And so does this here and here in this shape. I have a few deciduous and evergreen branches sweep across. And we'll get some indication of these deeper pools of water that will show off some of these green reflections. Like I mentioned, it's going to be green dominant. It's just something it's hard to avoid this time of year in northeastern Pennsylvania, which is a good thing. You know, all these rains that we've had, it brings all the plant life, comes to life. All right. All right, it's getting there. All right, so what to work on next? I think I'm gonna get the sky going a little bit. I have another angle brush, and I'm gonna use that. And that's gonna be really two versions of a sky color. One's gonna be a pink. I'll get that in there. And we'll inject a bluer version of this. Once again, the juxtaposition of warm and cool versions of a similar color, of a similar value, I find it just make it a little bit more of an interesting color vibration. Just go ahead and lay that in a couple of times. This will also oops, a little too much, way too much. I have a tendency to do that, get a little excited. All right. Just want to get some indication that I see that reflected in the water here in some of these brighter areas. Okay. Keep working. Just keep working. Taking a while to fill up this canvas today. That happens sometimes. I generally try to get it completely covered as quickly as possible. And it just didn't come together that way today, but it doesn't mean the painting itself won't. I'll just keep working at it. No. Come through with some of our intense yellow greens here. A lot of cad yellow, a little bit of blue, some white. Got a much whiter version of that. It's almost washed out. A little bit of blue. Over here. And over here. And yellow ochre. Blue. Just keep working like this until we get to the point where we're going to start putting some of the highlights in. Oof. Mosquitoes are bad. All right. A little mixture of cad yellow, yellow ochre, and white. Little teeny tiny touch of blue. All right, there you go. getting to the point here where I have a little danger of potentially chasing the light. So I'm gonna have to, at some point, just bite the bullet, lay in the final shapes and highlights. Blue, a little yellow ochre. This area here. Just indicate some of those shapes within and amongst tree canopy here. Okay. Just quickly going to restate some of the darkest areas again. I tend to get lost, to get exuberant, a little over exuberant with, some of these brighter colors and intense highlights. All right, on this side, we're going to go ahead and get some of these darker tree trunks in the foreground suggested. May even do so over here. Here as well. Okay. And mix in a little bit of burnt sienna into this black here and go ahead and I'm just gonna stand up for a brief moment, check out the scene. All right. Oh, like I heard something walking behind me here. Some beautiful trees in this area. Step back down and finish up this painting. With any luck, we'll have a pretty decent one. And we're done. If not, at least we've spent a couple moments relatively peacefully in the forest. Oops, there we go. Okay. I'll go ahead and get some of the highlights going in the water. Let me use a little bit of my ultramarine blue and a lot of white. We're gonna get a couple things going here. Some of the blue sky color, we're gonna lay that in. Don't want to completely cover the kind of pinker version of it, but we want it more toward the top. I'm gonna get some suggestion of it in spots here. And we're going to come over the top of this and refine the shapes of the shoreline a little bit before we wrap up. And diffuse some of these edges a little bit. Man, I feel like I'm getting bit up all the way across my back by these mosquitoes. All right, a little bit of this on the stones in select areas. I'm going to wipe this out. And I'm going to use a little bit of my pinkish white here. There's a couple of spots where we're going to see that. For example, over here, mixed in with our blue reflection. Over here. And all right, we got a bit of our burnt sienna mixed in with our white. Get some of that going on the surface of the water here. Use that. A suggestion. Oops. There for a second. Same color for this. A little bit of light hitting this side of the tree. It's a little too intense here, so we'll work that in. We'll blend that in. The black is, or the dark color is still a little wet, so we're able to blend. I'm using acrylic paints. A lot of people don't associate blending with acrylic paints because they dry so fast, but these are thick-bodied acrylic paints specifically made for plein air painting, so it works. I'm going to use this suggestion of on these rocks. And I'm going to come through with a dark green, a little yellow ochre, a little bit of black, and we're going to just reshape some of these pools. And I have one more thing I'm going to do, which is kind of a major structural thing. I'm going to add, there's a little island of brush that I'll make sure that I add in black, ochre. Reinforce some of the darkest darks again, because you do start to lose them. broken edges. We don't want straight edges. Not a lot of straight edges in nature. All right, so two things I want to do. Right here, there's a band of rocks. Kind of dam off the water a little bit. I'm gonna get some greens on there because they're there. I also want to finish off this suggestion of this big boulder. And green, more yellow ochre. I already have a fair amount of dark gray on the brush. I'm going to get that in there to indicate the light side of that. Light side of a lot of these stones. Maybe even a couple of trees. Okay. All right. And a little blue in there. Blued out black. All right. We're getting there. We're going to get a couple more trees worked in a moment that'll come across here and add some additional depth. But for now, what I'm going to do is focus in on too much. Okay. All right, I'm going to get some using the same brush. It's a little muddy, but that's okay. I'm going to get some highlights on that boulder. Okay. There's another one here. Here and there that'll grab a little bit of light. It's kind of chaotic, so especially now that the light's changing fast. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of this green that we've been using. Oof. And those mosquitoes are feasting on me here. All right. We're going to get Jeez, I'm getting bit up so bad here. It's hard to concentrate. That's enough of that. All right, so I'll wipe that brush out. I'm gonna get some of these trees in the foreground going. So we have two. I'm kind of gonna gray out a little bit, coming up from behind. Boulder. And I'm gonna have one, the whole right here. We're gonna have that one come up, and this one. bit of red into this black. Taper is a little bit off, but that's okay. A bit of yellow ochre in the black here. Another one going. Okay. We'll go ahead and get a little bit more yellow ochre mixed in with the existing black on a little bit of burnt sienna and a little bit of purple. And now some white. I'm going to use this to get some touches of highlights. This is where a palette knife would come in handy if I had one, but I don't. And just keep doing that for a bit. Sorry about my poor camera angle there. But we'll get a bit more of a bright yellow ochreish color here. And for some of these, for example, I think this one, I'm just going to reflect some of those greens. As well. This one. All right, I'll get some of those actually going within and amongst some of the reflections in the water. And then I'm going to come through with some of the cooler colors here and just play with some of these shadows a little bit. And I'll go with a little bit of pure white in some spots almost. So we got a couple of spots here. Get some of my pinkish white worked in there. Just a few touches here and there and we'll wrap up. Alright, I don't want to forget to say thanks. Thanks for checking out my work. You check out more of the videos. Some of them are educational in nature. Yeah, I have a couple of videos that speak to composition using Edgar Payne's design stems. I have some painting book reviews and books that are related to creativity in general as well. So a lot of good stuff out there. Check it out if you're interested. Come on back almost every morning. I'm doing something like this, or at least whenever possible. And you know, take a peek at my website, look for updates regarding workshops if you're interested. Would love to join me for some of those. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you have a great day. Just using some of that light blue paint to create some irregular sky holes and reflections in the water. And we're gonna wrap up and head on with the rest of our to-do list through the day. Kind of a busy day ahead of us. I'm sure you have one as well. But appreciate you spending some time here. And we're gonna wrap that up there. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. Stay well. Hope to see you again soon. Take care.